She came for a test drive, but ended up taking the whole dealership for a spin. Sarah Coleman pulled into the parking lot of Prestige Auto Gallery, her eyes immediately drawn to the sleek silver sports car displayed prominently in the window. She had been researching this exact model for weeks, comparing specs and reading reviews. Today was finally the day she would experience it firsthand. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. She stepped out of her modest sedan, smoothed down her simple blouse and slacks, and headed toward the entrance. Sarah was a successful accountant who had worked hard for this moment, saving diligently for a down payment on her dream car. She had planned this visit during her lunch break, hoping to make the most of her limited free time. The dealership's glass doors slid open, revealing a showroom filled with gleaming vehicles under perfect lighting. The scent of leather and new car interiors filled the air as Sarah made her way across the polished floor. Several salespeople were visible, though all seemed occupied with other customers or paperwork. After waiting patiently for nearly 10 minutes, Sarah finally caught the attention of a salesman who introduced himself as Brad. His smile was practiced, his handshake firm but brief. "How can I help you today?" Brad asked, his eyes already drifting past her to scan the showroom for what she assumed would be more promising customers. "I'm interested in test driving the new GT Roadster," Sarah said confidently, pointing toward the silver model that had first caught her eye. "I've done my research and I'm seriously considering purchasing one this month." Brad's expression shifted subtly, his enthusiasm dimming. "The GT Roadster is one of our premium vehicles. It starts at $85,000 for the base model." He emphasized, the price as if it were a barrier she couldn't possibly overcome. "I'm aware of the pricing," Sarah replied calmly. "As I mentioned, I've done extensive research. I'd like to test drive it today if possible." Brad glanced at his watch. "Unfortunately, we require appointments for test drives of our premium vehicles, and we typically need to run a credit check first to ensure serious interest." His tone became increasingly dismissive. "Perhaps you'd like to look at something more practical? We have some excellent compact models that might better suit your needs." Sarah felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment and frustration. She knew exactly what was happening but maintained her composure. "I understand your policies, but I'm only interested in the GT Roadster. I can provide proof of funds if that would help expedite the process." "Even so, we're quite booked today. Perhaps you could come back another time with an appointment, and possibly with your husband or partner?" Brad suggested with a condescending smile. Just as Sarah was about to respond, the dealership's main doors opened. Michael Coleman, dressed in a tailored suit with no tie, walked purposefully into the showroom. At 42, he carried himself with quiet confidence born from years of success in the automotive industry. Brad immediately straightened his posture, his eyes widening slightly in recognition. "Mr. Coleman, I didn't realize you were stopping by today." Michael spotted Sarah and walked directly to her, placing a gentle kiss on her cheek. "Sorry I'm late, honey. Meeting ran longer than expected." Sarah smiled, a gleam of vindication in her eyes. "That's all right. Brad here was just explaining why I can't test drive the GT Roadster today." Michael turned to Brad, his expression neutral but his eyes sharp. "Is there a problem with my wife test driving one of our vehicles?" Brad's face paled as realization dawned. "Your wife? I didn't realize she was—" "Yes, my wife," Michael confirmed calmly. "Sarah has been talking about this car for months. She's the one who convinced me to add it to our inventory in the first place." The salesman swallowed hard. "There seems to have been a misunderstanding, sir. I was simply explaining our usual protocol for premium test drives." "Interesting," Michael replied. "I wasn't aware we had implemented special protocols that prevented qualified customers from test driving vehicles they're interested in purchasing. Perhaps we should discuss this further in my office." 20 minutes later, Sarah was behind the wheel of the silver GT Roadster, feeling the leather-wrapped steering wheel under her fingers as she navigated through city streets. In the passenger seat, Michael observed her enjoyment with a satisfied smile. "You should have told him who you were right away," Michael suggested, though his tone indicated he already knew what her answer would be. Sarah shook her head, accelerating smoothly as the traffic light turned green. "And missed the opportunity to see how your staff actually treats customers when you're not around." This was illuminating. Michael nodded thoughtfully. "Brad's been with us for 8 months. I had no idea he was turning away potential buyers based on such superficial judgments." "It's not just Brad," Sarah replied. "This is the 3rd dealership I visited this month. The experiences were nearly identical at each one." She navigated a turn with precision, clearly comfortable with the vehicle's handling. "Women get offered smaller cars, quoted higher prices, and treated as if we're just there to waste time." As they pulled back into the dealership parking lot, Michael's expression had grown serious. "We need to implement some changes. Training, mystery shoppers, maybe even a complete revision of the sales approach." Sarah parked the car perfectly and turned to her husband. "Actually, I have some specific ideas about that. I didn't spend 15 years in corporate consulting for nothing." 3 months had passed since that pivotal day at Prestige Auto Gallery. The dealership had undergone a remarkable metamorphosis, not just in its physical appearance, but in its entire operational philosophy. The showroom, once merely sleek and modern, had been thoughtfully redesigned to create a more welcoming environment for all customers. Gone were the intimidating, closed-off sales desks that created power imbalances between salespeople and customers. In their place stood comfortable consultation areas with equal seating, transparent pricing tablets, and interactive vehicle information displays that customers could explore at their own pace. On this particular evening, the dealership was hosting what local business media had already dubbed the most innovative customer service initiative in the regional automotive industry in decades. The launch of the Respect Drive sales program marked the culmination of Sarah and Michael's intensive 3-month overhaul of Prestige Auto Gallery's entire business model. The showroom gleamed under strategic lighting that highlighted both the vehicles and the new customer-friendly features. Digital screens throughout the space shared testimonials from satisfied clients who had experienced the dealership's new approach. The event had drawn an impressive crowd. Industry professionals from competing dealerships had arrived with barely disguised curiosity. Local business leaders attended with genuine interest in the innovative approach, and media representatives circulated with cameras and notepads, eager to document what might become a case study in business transformation. Even representatives from several major automotive manufacturers had made appearances, sensing a potential shift in the industry's long-established sales paradigms. Sarah stood backstage, reviewing her notes one final time. She was dressed in a tailored navy suit that conveyed both authority and approachability, an intentional choice that reflected the new brand identity she had helped create. The staff members who passed by greeted her with genuine respect, a far cry from the dismissive treatment she had received just months before. Many of them had initially been skeptical of the changes she proposed, but the early results had turned even the most resistant employees into believers. 2 minutes, Mrs. Coleman," whispered the event coordinator, a position that hadn't existed before Sarah's involvement, but now seemed indispensable to the dealership's new focus on creating exceptional customer experiences. Sarah nodded, taking a deep breath as she watched Michael concluding his introduction from the monitor. Her husband had embraced her vision with surprising enthusiasm, acknowledging that despite his decades in the business, he had been blind to many of the systemic issues that had become normalized in automotive sales. And now, Michael was saying, to the gathered crowd, "I'm proud to introduce the architect behind our transformation, our new director of customer experience, who also happens to be my brilliant wife, Sarah Coleman." Applause filled the showroom as Sarah walked confidently to the podium. The faces looking back at her represented every segment of the automotive ecosystem, from sales veterans to industry journalists to potential customers. The energy in the room was palpable, a mixture of curiosity, skepticism, and genuine interest in what had already become known as the Prestige experiment. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Sarah began, her voice clear and measured. "The automotive industry has a long history of gender bias, a fact I experienced firsthand right here in this very showroom." She paused, letting the admission settle over the audience. Several people shifted uncomfortably, while others nodded in recognition. Studies consistently show that women influence over 85% of car buying decisions, yet dealerships continue to alienate this crucial demographic through outdated sales tactics and assumptions. The cost of this disconnect isn't just moral, it's financial, with billions in potential sales lost annually to these entrenched practices. Sarah gestured to the sleek presentation displayed on the wall behind her, showing meticulously researched statistics on gender disparities in automotive sales experiences. When women walk into dealerships, they are twice as likely to be shown lower-end vehicles regardless of their stated budget. They are quoted higher prices for identical vehicles and services. They are 3 times more likely to have technical questions redirected to irrelevant features like cup holders or vanity mirrors. And perhaps most tellingly, 65% report that salespeople addressed questions to their male companions, even when the woman clearly identified herself as the buyer. The data points transitioned to images showing the dealership's new training protocols and customer service commitments. Sarah continued with growing passion. "These aren't just anecdotes. They're documented patterns that have persisted for generations. But at Prestige Auto Gallery, we've decided that tradition isn't justification for practices that ultimately hurt everyone involved: customers, employees, and the business itself." She moved from behind the podium, using a tablet to advance her presentation as she walked across the stage. This, too, was intentional. Sarah wanted to demonstrate the more dynamic, engaged approach that the dealership now embodied. Our transformation began with data. We conducted comprehensive surveys of past customers, analyzed years of sales records, and implemented mystery shopper programs to establish our baseline. What we found confirmed my personal experience. Our approach was fundamentally flawed, not just for women, but for many customer demographics. The presentation shifted to show before and after statistics. We discovered that salespeople spent an average of 12 minutes less with female customers than with males. Test drives were offered to male customers 74% of the time, compared to only 29% for women. And perhaps most damning, our customer satisfaction scores showed a 23-point gender gap. Sarah clicked to the next slide, which detailed the comprehensive program they had developed. Armed with this information, we created a multifaceted approach to transformation. First, we completely redesigned our hiring practices, implementing blind resume reviews and structured interviews to reduce unconscious bias. We expanded our recruitment sources to attract a more diverse workforce, recognizing that representation matters in creating an inclusive environment. The presentation showed images of the dealership's revamped training program, with staff engaged in role-playing exercises and attending educational seminars. Next, we overhauled our training protocols. Every team member, from sales to service to administrative staff, underwent comprehensive education on unconscious bias and inclusive customer service. We brought in experts from retail, hospitality, and even healthcare, industries that have made greater strides in customer experience innovation than automotive has traditionally attempted. Sarah moved to a different section of the stage, where a display showed the dealership's new sales process flowchart. Perhaps most radically, we reimagined the entire customer journey. We eliminated commission-based sales in favor of customer satisfaction metrics. We standardized pricing to remove the negotiation process that historically disadvantages certain demographics. We created transparent financing options presented equally to all customers, regardless of perceived purchasing power. The audience was fully engaged now, many taking notes or photographing the presentation slides. Sarah could see that even the most skeptical attendees were paying close attention. We also transformed our physical space, as you can see around you tonight. Research shows that automotive showrooms have traditionally been designed to create psychological advantage for salespeople and to encourage impulse purchases. Our new layout prioritizes customer comfort, information accessibility, and genuine product education. Michael joined her on stage, adding his perspective as the long-time owner. "I've been in this business for 25 years, he said, his voice carrying the weight of experience. "I thought I understood everything about selling cars, but when Sarah experienced our sales process as a regular customer, it forced me to confront uncomfortable truths about how we've always done business. We've already seen remarkable results during our soft launch. Customer satisfaction scores have increased by 40%, and our sales to women buyers have nearly doubled. It turns out that treating people with respect isn't just the right thing to do, it's also good business." The audience applauded as Sarah continued. "We're also pleased to announce the creation of our Women in Automotive Scholarship Program, designed to encourage more women to enter all aspects of the industry, from sales and management to mechanics and engineering. We've established partnerships with local technical schools and universities to create internship pathways and mentorship opportunities." She clicked to a slide showing the impressive early results of their initiatives. "In just 3 months of implementation, we've seen our overall sales increase by 22%. Our customer retention rate has improved by 35%, and perhaps most significantly, our average time from first visit to purchase has decreased by nearly half, indicating that customers feel more comfortable making decisions in our new environment." As Sarah concluded her formal presentation, she invited questions from the audience. Hands shot up immediately, and for the next 30 minutes she fielded inquiries ranging from implementation challenges to financial impacts to plans for scaling the model to other locations. One particularly skeptical industry veteran stood to ask the question many were likely thinking. "This all sounds impressive, but isn't there a risk that without the traditional negotiation process, you're leaving money on the table? How can you justify potentially lower per-vehicle profits?" Sarah smiled, having anticipated this exact concern. "That's an excellent question. We've found that transparency actually increases our average transaction value by 8%. When customers trust the process, they're more likely to add options and upgrades. Furthermore, our customer acquisition costs have decreased by 40% because of increased referrals and positive reviews. The traditional high-pressure sales model optimizes for single transactions at the expense of lifetime customer value. Our approach does the opposite, and the numbers already support this strategy." As the formal Q&A concluded, the event transitioned to a reception where attendees could explore the showroom and speak directly with staff members about the changes. Sarah found herself surrounded by industry professionals eager to learn more about specific aspects of the transformation. Later in the evening, as the crowd thinned, Brad, the salesman who had initially dismissed Sarah, approached her with a glass of sparkling water. He had become one of the dealership's most vocal advocates for the new system after undergoing the training program and experiencing the results firsthand. "I wanted to thank you again for giving me a second chance," he said sincerely. "I never realized how my assumptions were affecting my interactions with customers. Yesterday, I sold 2 high-end vehicles to women buyers, and I did it by actually listening to what they wanted instead of making assumptions. My customer satisfaction scores are at an all-time high, and honestly, I'm enjoying my job more than ever." Sarah smiled warmly. "That's exactly what this initiative is about. Sometimes all it takes is a shift in perspective to see opportunities that were always there. Your willingness to change and grow has been instrumental to our success." As the event wound down, Sarah found Michael speaking with representatives from the state's Automotive Dealers Association. who were discussing the possibility of implementing similar training programs across their member dealerships. When they finally had a moment alone, Michael wrapped his arm around Sarah's waist as they surveyed their transformed dealership. "You know," he said quietly, "I should have brought you into the business years ago. Your outside perspective was exactly what this industry needed." Sarah leaned against him contentedly, watching staff members enthusiastically explaining the new features to lingering guests. Better late than never. Besides, sometimes you need to experience a problem firsthand to truly understand how to fix it. What matters is that we're creating lasting change, not just here, but hopefully across the entire industry. As they walked through the showroom toward their office, they passed the silver GT Roadster, now displayed with a small plaque telling the story of how a denied test drive had sparked a revolution in automotive sales. The vehicle stood as a gleaming reminder that transformation often begins with a single moment of clarity and the courage to challenge established norms.